There's a man in your office who gets promoted over more qualified candidates. There's a guy in your social circle who commands respect without raising his voice. There's someone you know who seems to navigate life with an unfair advantage, and you can't quite put your finger on why. It's not his resume, it's not his charisma, it's not even his competence. It's something else, something hidden, something most men are never taught, because we're raised to believe the opposite is virtue. Machiavelli saw it 500 years ago. He wrote about it in coded language because saying it directly would have destroyed him. But the men who understood, the ones who truly absorbed what he was teaching, they changed the course of history. And here's what nobody tells you. This trait, this hidden advantage, it's not genetic. It's not luck. It's a skill. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Let me show you what I mean. Most of us grow up with a specific programming. Be honest. Be transparent. Wear your heart on your sleeve, share your feelings, communicate openly. We're told this is how you build trust, how you connect with people, how you succeed. And for most situations, with most people, this advice works fine. But in the arenas where real power is distributed, in boardrooms, in negotiations, in competitive environments, in relationships where frame matters, radical transparency is a liability. It's giving away your hand before the cards are dealt. Think about poker. The best players don't broadcast their emotions. They don't telegraph their strategy. They maintain what's called a poker face, not because they're dishonest, but because revealing everything puts them at a disadvantage. Life works the same way. The hidden trait Machiavelli understood, the one that gives certain men an unfair edge, is this: calculated inscrutability, the ability to be unreadable, to control what you reveal and when you reveal it, to let others wonder what you're thinking, what you're planning, what you're capable of. It's the opposite of what we're taught. And that's exactly why it works. Here's a real situation. Two men work at the same company, same department, similar skills. Both want the director position that's opening up. The first man, let's call him David, is liked by everyone. He's transparent about his ambitions. He tells his colleagues he's going for the promotion. He shares his ideas freely in meetings. He's helpful, open, predictable. Everyone knows where David stands because David tells them. The second man, we'll call him Marcus, is different. Marcus is pleasant, but private. When asked about the promotion, he gives non-committal answers. He listens more than he speaks. In meetings, he shares some ideas but keeps his best ones close. His colleagues aren't sure what Marcus is thinking, and that uncertainty creates something: respect mixed with caution. When decision time comes, Marcus gets the job. Why? Because David made himself too knowable. Management saw him as a team player, valuable but not leadership material. They could predict him. They understood his limits. He'd shown all his cards. Marcus remained a question mark. And in that uncertainty, people projected competence, depth, strategic thinking. They couldn't predict him, so they assumed he was operating on a level they couldn't fully see. That assumption became his advantage. This isn't about being fake. It's not about lying or manipulating. It's about understanding a fundamental truth. Mystery creates value. The unknown commands respect. What people can't fully grasp, they elevate. Machiavelli wrote that a prince must be like a fox and a lion, cunning and strong. But the fox part, the cunning, isn't about deception for its own sake. It's about understanding that showing everything makes you vulnerable. It's about strategic concealment. Let's break this down into 4 practical layers. Layer 1. Emotional opacity. This means controlling what emotions you display and when. Most men are emotional open books. Something good happens, they light up. Something bothers them, everyone knows. Someone disrespects them, the reaction is immediate and visible. The man with inscrutability controls this. He doesn't suppress emotions. That leads to explosion. He experiences them fully, internally, then chooses what to show externally. When someone tries to get a rise out of him, his face stays neutral. When he succeeds, his celebration is private or delayed. This doesn't make him robotic, it makes him unpredictable. And unpredictability is power. Layer 2. Strategic ambiguity. This is about the information you share. Most men over-explain. They justify their decisions. They detail their plans. They seek validation through disclosure. Strategic ambiguity means being comfortable with partial information. When someone asks what you're working on, you give them enough to satisfy curiosity, but not enough to fully understand. When someone wants to know your next move, you smile and say something vague. I'm exploring a few options. We'll see how things develop. I'm keeping my options open. These aren't lies. They're boundaries. They're you maintaining the advantage of the unknown. Layer 3. Controlled revelation. This is the art of timing. Everything you eventually share, your skills, your knowledge, your capabilities, becomes more powerful when revealed at the right moment. The man who immediately shows everything he knows gets cataloged and dismissed. The man who reveals depth gradually, when it serves him, keeps people recalibrating their assessment of him. You don't announce you speak 3 languages. Someone discovers it when you casually switch languages in conversation. You don't tell people you train 6 days a week. They notice the results and wonder how you got there. You don't broadcast your network. People find out when you make one call and solve a problem they thought was unsolvable. Each revelation becomes an event because it was unexpected. That's strategic impact. Layer 4. The power of the unknown. Here's the deepest part. Human beings are wired to fear and respect what they don't understand. Our ancestors survived by being cautious around the unpredictable. That ancient wiring still runs in modern humans. When you become unreadable, when people can't quite figure you out, their brains default to caution and respect. They fill in the gaps with assumptions that usually skew in your favor. They wonder if you know something they don't. They hesitate before challenging you. They give you more space, more consideration, more weight. Not because you demanded it, because you left room for their imagination to work in your favor. Now let's talk about why this works at a psychological level. Humans are pattern recognition machines. We feel comfortable when we can predict behavior. The person who's fully transparent becomes a solved puzzle. Once solved, they lose mystique. They become manageable, categorizable, less threatening. The person who remains partially hidden stays unsolved. The brain keeps working on the puzzle, keeps paying attention, keeps assigning importance. That sustained attention translates to influence. There's also projection. When we don't know someone's full story, we project onto them. Usually we project competence, depth, and capability, especially if they carry themselves with quiet confidence. By revealing less, you allow others to make you greater in their minds than you might actually be. This is why silence is often more powerful than explanation. Why the man who says less in the meeting is often perceived as the smartest one there. Why leaders throughout history have cultivated an air of mystery around their decision-making processes they understood. Accessibility reduces authority. Distance creates respect. But here's the crucial distinction. This isn't about being cold or unavailable. It's not about being an emotionless statue or a manipulative schemer. It's about discernment. It's about understanding that not everyone deserves full access to you. Not everyone needs to know what you're thinking, feeling, planning. Not every question deserves a complete answer. It's about valuing your inner world enough to protect it. About understanding that your thoughts, your strategies, your emotional landscape, these are yours. Sharing them is a privilege you grant, not an obligation you fulfill. The men who master this aren't sociopaths, they're strategists. They have deep friendships where they're vulnerable and open. They have partners who know them fully. But they're selective about who gets that access. And in professional, competitive, or adversarial contexts, they maintain inscrutability as armor and advantage. So how do you develop this trait if you've spent years being the open book? Start with a 72-hour rule. This is your training ground. For the next 72 hours, practice delayed response. When something happens that would normally trigger an immediate emotional reaction, good or bad, pause. Feel the emotion internally, but don't display it. Don't text about it. Don't call someone to process it. Just observe it inside yourself for 72 hours. When someone asks you a question that you'd normally answer fully and immediately, practice strategic brevity. Give them 60% of what you'd normally share. Notice what happens. Usually, nothing negative. Often, they respect the boundary. When you accomplish something you'd normally broadcast, keep it private for 72 hours. Let the satisfaction be yours alone first. Notice how it feels to not need external validation immediately. This isn't about becoming secretive or weird. It's about building the muscle of self-containment. It's about learning that you don't need to share everything to be complete, that your value doesn't require constant proof or explanation. After 72 hours of practice, you'll notice something. You'll feel more centered, more in control, less reactive, and the people around you will start treating you differently, with slightly more respect, slightly more curiosity, slightly more caution. That's the edge developing. From there, you expand. You become more selective about what you share on social media. You stop feeling the need to explain your decisions to people who aren't affected by them. You get comfortable with silence in conversations, letting others fill the space while you observe and learn. You start to realize that the less you say, the more weight your words carry when you do speak. That the less you reveal, the more interesting you become. That the less you react, the more people wonder what it takes to move you. This is the unfair advantage Machiavelli saw. It's unfair because most men never learn it. They go through life in full transparency mode, wondering why they're overlooked, why they're taken for granted, why they don't command the respect they deserve. Meanwhile, a smaller percentage of men who understand inscrutability, who've learned to control their opacity, to be strategically ambiguous, to reveal themselves in calculated moments, these men move through the world with a different gravity. They're not better people. They're not smarter or more talented. They just understand something fundamental. In a world where everyone is desperately broadcasting everything, the man who stays quiet, who remains partially hidden, who makes you work to understand him, that man has power. You can develop this. Starting today, starting with the next conversation you have, the next question someone asks, the next moment where you'd normally explain yourself. Pause. Breathe. Choose what you reveal. Practice inscrutability. Watch what happens. Watch how people's behavior toward you shifts, how they lean in more, ask more questions, show more respect, give you more space. You're not changing who you are. You're changing what you show. And in that gap between who you are and what you show, power lives. This is the hidden trait, the unfair edge, the secret Machiavelli knew but could only whisper about. Now you know it too. The question is, what will you do with it? Will you keep broadcasting everything, making yourself fully known and fully predictable? Or will you start cultivating mystery, protecting your inner world, revealing yourself strategically? The men who choose the second path don't become worse people. They become more effective ones, more respected, more influential, more in control of how they're perceived and treated. That's not manipulation. That's mastery. If this resonated with you, if you felt the truth of it, drop a comment below. Tell me about a time you stayed silent when you wanted to speak, and what happened as a result. I read every comment. This is a conversation, not a lecture. And if you want more of this, more psychology that no one else is talking about, more insights that give you an actual edge in real life, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Because this channel exists for men who are tired of surface-level advice and ready for the truth. The uncomfortable truth, the strategic truth, the truth that works. This is Dark Psyche, where silence becomes strength.